hand back to you before you leave, and then
I see the last sentence.
Okay, I'm going to be talking about privatization of national parks and landmarks today. And I want to start by reading an excerpt from William Riley's 2017 poem, The Beauties of the Grand Canyon. There men see the earth in its making, so mighty, majestic, and solemn, its massive, eternal foundations, facade and turret and column. 'Tis building through all the long ages, unfinished, completed, it seems, the masterpiece among earth's great wonders of canyon, mountain, and stream. So now imagine this untouched America beauty as just being seen as a place of economic profit, potential business transaction, having no real attachment to the pride of the United States. And it seems that in the past year, our nation's politicians have come to see some of the purest forms of nature, like the Grand Canyon, as just simply a waste of funds. So what's the situation? According to Clayton's 2017 Newsweek article, national parks in general serve as reserves of patriotism, physical representations of our country's strengths, and are known to be jointly shared by all citizens rather than privately owned. This has recently become a topic of debate due to the Trump administration's plan to begin privatizing our nation's parks to save a few bucks and generally get more control of the public. This corporation takeover can potentially lead to immense budget cuts, loss of jobs, and abolishing some of the most scenic and stunning national parks in our country. According to Anderson's 2012 Some of Us article, we could have things like Walmart's Yosemite or Microsoft's Everglades become part of our national fabric. So now let's talk about the Trump administration and what they have to say about it. This is Ryan Zinke. He's the Secretary of Interior under Trump, and he's really shown no attachment to our national parks. According to Orzo's 2017 evaluation of Zinke for Euronews, he has been quoted many times proposing to the White House that several national monuments be dramatically shrunk and taken over for mining and drilling. He's also advertised his plans to privatize parks, threatening their historic prestige forever. Zinke seems willing to gamble these threats in hopes of saving his department some money. And as stated in Halpern's 2017 article, Interior Secretary Ryan Zinke is a disgrace. And don't worry, we can't forget that Trump himself has really been no help to the situation either. His famous idea in the past year was to give the National Park Service funds a $400 million budget cut. Mind you, this is all while America's national parks need a staggering $11.5 billion worth of overdue road and infrastructure repairs, according to O'Connor's 2017 article in The Guardian. Look, the bottom line is, for people pushing for privatization of national parks, their goal is to just maximize profit. Which leads me to the pros, or pro. Like I just said, their main pro is just to maximize profit, and in the eyes of the Trump administration and those people who believe in what they believe in, it's going to make the parks more self-sufficient. What does that really mean? So that means they can raise their prices, which will lead to more money flow through the parks and eventually through the government. They also believe that the parks can stay open, not having economic pressures of using public money. And lastly, like stated in Beck's article from the Private Parks Organization in 2017, private operators would be very interested in conserving and taking care of the areas that are popular and make a lot of money. The problem with this is that they won't be taking care of the terrain, flora, and fauna of the unpopular areas of the land. Now for the cons. So, throughout my research, I found a lot of cons to privatization of national parks, but these are the three that stood out to me the most and were the most common. One, the rise in visitor costs. This one I think affects most families and people generally. Basically, not everyone can enjoy national parks if there's a rise in visitor costs. A great example of this is explained in O'Connor's 2017 article for The Guardian, where he interviewed John Seeger, who lives in Glacier National Park, or close to it. And Mr. Seeger said, in peak season, hotel rooms can cost hundreds of dollars a night, and parks can bump up their prices a bunch. That's an option for some people, but the national park system is supposed to be enjoyed by all. Which leads to the second cause, which I think most people think of when they think of privatization, and that's going to be the destroying of the environment and the destroying of these parks. I think that being stripped of natural resources and making them into malls and sprawling housing will really damage the ecosystems and the homes of a lot of animals. A lot of animals live in our national parks, and I think a lot of people forget that. Privatization is intended to make these areas available for commercial development, not really thinking about the little family of squirrels that lives in the tree in Yosemite. This could lead to things like water rights falling into the hands of people who would have no problem charging exorbitant fees. As stated in Simon's article, are there advantages to privatization of national parks? And then lastly, the last column that I found, which would affect a lot of like the economy and just people's well-being, was the loss of jobs. And according to Gonzalez's 2013 Career Paths with the National Park Service article, this little budget cut of $400 million will cause significant amount of job loss. This includes park rangers, guides, technicians, firefighters, basically anyone who's involved in the park staff. So, why should you care? I know, unlike myself, not everyone's into national parks, hikes, I get that, but this privatization of national parks does affect your community. People should have an equal opportunity to be able to visit and experience nature in the ways of national parks. And just like my family and I did back in 2014 at Sequoia National Park, this is 2014 me, Ellen. That's me, my siblings, that's my mom, my grandpa, showing how giant the trees are, and that's me and my cousin and my siblings. And I just remember this trip as being something where you're engulfed in nature, and I've never felt that. I mean, I live in Orange County, like I see the buildings of the shopping malls, and I think it's great, that's my beauty. But going here, it was like this like total transformation of what I thought was beauty and what nature really was about. So imagine those families that don't get to experience this if we privatize it during privatization of these national parks. So don't worry, you can help. I found the two most important ways to help. One was through fundraising. National parks and landmarks can always use extra donations or two. And so you can go out, fundraise for your favorite national park you visited, or maybe one that you want to visit. And that's just a great way to obviously get money flowing through there without privatization. The second, which I think is the most important and the easiest to access, is signing petitions. And I know I feel like in a lot of these speeches you hear like sign petitions, sign petitions. This is so easy to do. I basically went on the National Parks Conservation Association website, npca.org, and I found like literally a list of, see this list? You can scroll down for like a minute, and there's all these petitions you can sign. The two with the red arrows, this is on like literally the first page when you click on their website. These two already have like affiliation with what I've talked about. So you can imagine there's like probably 15 more petitions you can sign that relate to what I've been talking about. In conclusion, I'd like to close with another excerpt from that same poem that really stuck with me, and this is again another picture of the Grand Canyon during sunset. Their work will fade, it will crumble, and men will forget all the past. But this art in the heart of the Rockies is carved from the granite that lasts. Millenniums may pass our planet, our maps, our world will be changed, but the canyon, out with the wild mountains, let it ever remain. Thank you.